they were like, we probably can bury people that weren't actually dead. Because, you know, back in the day, they didn't have embalming. This is getting really dark, sorry, but it's history. They didn't have embalming stuff, so they would bury the person the next day. They didn't wait a couple days. So then they were like, oh shoot, they discovered like, oh yeah, you could be in a coma or a catatonic state or just be taking a real deep nap. And so they had like these coffins that had like a bell, like you had like a string tied to your finger.
Just kind of squeeze excited.
And there was like a tube that would go up to the surface and then a bell. And then if you like twitched or whatever, then the bell would ring and then the grave digger would be like, oh, someone done goofed, kind of. So they had that. They also apparently had spring-loaded coffins, which I feel like would be hilarious if you're just like visiting grandma and then like a couple feet over, somebody just flies out. So anyway, again, please save me from myself because my brain will just keep going and just sharing random stuff.
I got you. Throw your line. What's your favorite season of Sailor Moon?
I mean, I feel like I like S because which is the third season, because I just like that. I mean, I'm very angsty, and I feel like that one's about like the moral quandary of like, you know, Sailor Saturn is this like wee little babe, but one day she will destroy the universe. So it's like the ethical dilemma of like, do we kill her now and save the universe? But she hasn't done anything yet, and it's very like, you know, Minority Report, where it's like, can you punish somebody before they've done something? But yeah, so that one's like got an angsty spot in my heart.
Fun fact from the White Wing about the bells, sometimes the cats would like roam the graveyard and ring the bells. So.
Oh no. I
They're
also heard sometimes they would have coffins that I think were triggered by like if your chest expanded, like you were breathing, but the problem is when after you die, some gases and stuff might escape, so it might have moved. So I think there have been times where they would like dig up the person only be like, no, they're not. Oops, we gotta rebury them. So anyway, like I said, I'm into weird morbid history stuff, so keep asking questions unless you want to hear weird Victorian burial facts.
Go on. Oh wait.
Got one right here. Ooh, okay, my favorite audiobook I've narrated for. Yeah, I have a couple audiobooks on Audible, and they're all, I like them all. Like I did one called The Steampunk Wizard of Oz, and that was a series. I think we only ended up doing 2, 3, I don't know. There was another one called Sirens. That one was really fun. I tended to pick books that I would like to read. So they're all books that are kind of in the sci-fi, fantasy, kind of YA genre. Sirens is fun because it's like 2 girls, kind of like Elfie and Galinda kind of dynamic, where one of them's like really preppy, the other one's really goth, and then of course they have to work together and then yeah, exactly. But then there's like the Greek gods are involved. It's like a modern day thing. I think my favorite was a book called Contingency, which is like she was like a time traveler, but she didn't know it, so I don't know. It was called Sage Hannigan, a time warper novel.
Okay.
And there was another one, and we never got around to doing it, but yeah. They're really good. I really like them, although I think that one only sold like 6 copies, so.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. I feel like time traveling, but you don't know about it. Well, I'm sure
She was like it was like not a genetic thing. It was like she came from a long line of women who had this gift, and there was like a tattoo behind her ear she didn't or that appeared when she came near this like creepy old woman and whatever, and it's all that stuff. So anyway, I could never write a time travel thing because there's too many plot holes.
Well, if you could time travel, what era and where would you, like, what part of the world, I guess, would you time travel to? Yeah.
Oh, that's good to, I don't know, because so my mom's from France, and I've always been really fascinated by French history. My dad's from Louisiana, so they're kind of like married. Well, my parents are married, but like the histories are married, because, you know, there was the French colonized Canada, and then they got driven out, so the Acadians, that's where Cajun came from, so the Acadians kind of fled down to Louisiana. So you got Cajuns, then you got people who came from Haiti, which was another French colony, so I'm Louisiana Creole, so we got like black, white, Native American, like we got a big old gumbo of cultures. Yeah, I'm a spicy gumbo. So I actually put that in like a Tinder profile. I was like, watch out, I'm a spicy gumbo. I did put in a Tinder profile once that, or not Tinder, it was like Hinge or something, but it said, what's a fact people don't know about you? And I said, like, I'm actually an immortal being from the Scottish Highlands. Clearly, I thought it was, clearly,
yeah, actual fact.
I assumed people would know that was a joke.
What?
But I had one guy who, like, I went on a date with, and he was like, he got real mad when I started talking, because he's like, you're not actually Scottish? I was like, I'm not actually immortal either, is this gonna be a problem? Like, I assumed that's the part you have a problem with.
What? Okay.
Yeah, and it's funny because like the whole time he kept talking down to me as if I was stupid because he had like a math master's. I'm like, bro, you're the one who thought I was an immortal being from the Scottish Highlands. So
Clearly reading sarcasm, like
that's the thing is, it was kind of like a good baseline thing because I'm like, I gotta be somebody sarcastic. So if you don't get sarcasm, this is not gonna work out. Anyway, there's tangents everywhere. Sorry.
Most bizarre monsters that you have seen. If you when you were watching Sailor Moon when you were a kid or as you were working on the job.
So most bizarre monsters.
Yeah.
One of my favorites was like we call her the Katy Perry monster. I think it's in Sailor Moon R. I think it's in the second season. But she's like got this crazy colorful hair because we call her the Katy Perry monster because she looks like Katy Perry in California Girls, where it's like this candy kind of lady. So she's got like, I don't know, you have to look her up. I think she's made out of gingerbread, and then she's got these like arms that are actually like frosting guns, and she like shoots at you and turns you into different pastries. So I think that would probably be one of the I mean, Sailor Moon's got like 200 episodes of classic. There's many silly monsters. Oh, there's the tennis shoe. No, yeah, I think there's a tennis shoe monster.
Google Candy Monster Sailor Moon.
Do you see? And she's kind of got like a little like.
Is her hair purple?
I think so. It's either purple or green.
I don't know. That's kind of looks like Katy Perry. Sorry, I needed to investigate.
This is very important journalism, guys. We have to. Yes.
Oh my.
Yeah, because she also has like the kind of Madonna cone bra
I
situation.
think Katy Perry borrowed that too. She kind of looks like a. I'm not gonna show it, but it just looks like.
You can't just like not show
Penelope
people.
on Sweet there with the tights.
That is kind of a cute outfit. What's the name so people can
Oh,
Google
yeah,
it
yeah.
themselves, so you're not just withholding information.
Okay. Well, because it's such a. All right. What is her name? Who is she? Maxipan. Like marzipan?
That's a weird name. Some of these names, I think they thought like they did never think would like get translated into English. They're like, this sounds cool to a Japanese speaking audience.
She's a droid? Okay, anyway.
Okay, she's a frosting robot, I
I'm
guess.
so confused. Alrighty. Good. Okay, we're learning. Yeah, go ahead.
Final question. All right. Did you know that there was a missing season of Sailor Moon, and what was your reaction when you found out that you'd be dubbing it or something because of certain reasons that everybody in here knows why that season was.
So when I was a kid, I watched the dub like in fourth or fifth grade, and so it was like the deep dub, the Canada version, and in that version they stopped. There was 5 seasons, but they stopped right before season 5. So I had known in the 90s like that there was like a missing elusive season, and that there were these like gender bending superheroes, Sailor Starlights. And I'm like, what is this season? Like I want to see it. I never thought I would see it in the U.S. So 20 years later, when I got the part, I was like, this is crazy. I never thought that they would actually do all the seasons, all the movies, all the episodes. So when they said like, yes, we're doing all, like, it was kind of cool. Like when I was a kid, I was like, man, it'd be cool if this was dubbed one day. I never would have thought that I'd be like part of that.
You.
I know. Like I literally, Sailor Jupiter was my favorite character growing up. So like running around in my backyard in 5th grade, I was, Supreme Thunder. Or I guess in the original one, it was like, Jupiter Thunder Crash or like whatever. Yeah. And so like, it's weird to be like, if I could go back in time. Oh, I never answered that question. But if I could go back in time and like tell little me, I mean, I don't think she would believe me. And also she'd be like, you need to work out more. But yeah, like it's just, what are the odds, also the time travel. I think I might go back to like, I'm really obsessed with like pre-Civil War New Orleans, because there was this time where there was a group of people that like looked like me called les gens de couleur libre, or the free people of color. And so that, yeah, and it was like, and like, so because I remember like seeing these like paintings of like white women and women who looked like me, or like black women going to balls together or operas together in like these big poofy dresses. And so it's this like weird window of time when Louisiana was still owned by France, where there was this like class of people that like could own property and had like wealth, and it was just like really interesting. So it would be interesting to go back. I mean, I don't know if there would ever be like a great time to go back to, but that's probably
You could try.
a cool one, I guess, in that
That
sense.
is cool. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't teach that part, but yeah. So I'd want to maybe do that, or I don't know if there's any time, because I feel like in other times,
Every other time, kind of.
every other time like it sounds cool in theory, but like you go back, they're like, oh hey, we don't have medicine yet. Yeah, they don't have toilets, and so it's like, hey, I have a toothache. They're like, sorry, you're gonna die. Like it's just yeah.
Oh, it's kind of like that, where you sneeze and everybody's like, oh.
Yeah, but like back then they would be like, send him away, banish him to Eccles. Banish him to Eccles.
Okay, any questions one more time?
Do you have more fun voicing Bruno or Zimmerman?
More
Ooh.
fun doing Burrito or Burrito or
I feel like they're fun for different reasons. Like Sailor Jupiter was fun in the sense of like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Like when you're dubbing the footage you literally saw growing up, you're like, that's my voice. Whereas Boruto is fun in the sense of I get to, Viz kind of lets me play. So like sometimes the line will be really boring. And I'm like, yeah, that's not funny. Let's do a better line, or something. So like they give me more freedom to have some control over it. Like I'm not gonna like completely change the character, but sometimes the line can be. What? Somebody said something.
Oh,
I heard somebody say something.
I like standing. That was his line.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, you're weird about. She's like, I don't want anybody standing. I'm like,
Well, because they
that's
told
their,
us, listen.
their prerogative, man.
They told us not to have like people standing if it's like crowded. Find a seat if you can. But you know what? He's bigger than me, so I can't take him.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I mean, that'd be fun to see. It's like fight.
Hold his hand up too high.
Yeah, he's like pushes you off, like keeps doing it. She lost a fight against a door yesterday. I don't think it'd be a problem.
It's hard. You're like, what about me? Randall's Q&A. Didn't you say that you help do captions?
Oh, so okay, yeah. So my other job is an ADR writer, which is I think audio dialogue replacement or audio digital replacement. It should be dialogue, I think. So anyway, anime, when you dub it, it has to match the picture. So a lot of times the Japanese length of the sentence is not going to match the English length. So either we need to extend the line, like kind of pad it or reword it, or like there might be a pause right in the middle where you don't pause in English unless you're William Shatner. We call them Shatner pauses because sometimes the writers get lazy and they just kind of leave the translation as is and just put a pause in the middle. And it'd be like saying, well, I'm talking to you guys and I want to, like, you don't do that. It's going to sound real weird. So my job is like they'll give a translation into English, so I don't have to know the original language. They'll give you the translation. It's often very dubby, very literal, and very not how we speak in English. So it's like, how unfortunate, my dear sister, and it's just like, but they're like teenagers, and teenagers. So maybe if that was like a period piece, it'd be fine. But like, so like our job is to make it match we call them mouth flaps, but like the flapping mouths. We have to make them sound colloquial enough, like sound good to like an English-speaking ear. Because people who watch dubs tend to have a different taste or flavor than somebody who watches a sub. So subs, they tend to want more of like the authentic Japanese vibe. And then for the dub, we tend to try to like, not Americanize it, but they do say like localize. So like there might be certain jokes where instead of being like, you fool, we might say you dummy or depending on how what the rating level is, we'd say something else. But say like man or dude instead of like friend, so like there's just certain things that we like do. So that's why like with Boruto sometimes I'm able to just like rewrite lines on the fly. I'm like, that's not funny, but this will be. And sometimes Viz will come back with notes being like, haha, change it back. And so we have to like re-record it. They're like, funny, we're not keeping this. But sometimes they let us keep them. But yeah, so that's a really fun job. But yeah, I want to do a series. So I have like a TikTok, and I also want to get my YouTube stuff going. I want to make like a series because everybody wants to get into voiceover, which I'll do like a thing about how to get into voiceover.
Yeah.
But I don't think people realize how many cool jobs there are behind the scenes in anime that you can do. Like there's a guy that I met at a con once who came up to me and he's like, "Oh hey, I'm an animator for Boruto." I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, he's like, "No, like I animate for Boruto, like from like Indiana or something." I'm like, "Well, how?" He's like, "Well, I just kept like pestering the Japanese company on Twitter. Like
I
put,
just messaged Japan.
well, he would tweet at them. He would put it in Google Translate and probably really bad Japanese, but he'd put it in Google Translate and just keep tweeting his portfolio at them. And eventually they're like, "Okay, fine. Do you want work?" Yeah, they're like, "Fine. Do you want work?" Because he was good. Like you know, I don't recommend doing that if you're not like a professional artist, but like. So yeah, now he's an animator for an anime who lives in the U.S. So like, I want to show like that you can do that. You can do like ADR writing, like you can write the scripts, you can be a director, you can be an engineer. Like I want to kind of showcase each of the jobs to show people like all the cool possibilities in case they're like, "Oh, I don't really want to act, but I want to be a part of anime." Like there's a lot of cool opportunities.
To follow up on the question, or my question, regarding your like caption work, has it always been this way? Or is this a new sort of development? Is that
But like the kind of like having to match the mouth flaps, or
Well, because older anime,
like Speed Racer.
yeah, well, it was very defined, and even early 2000s was in almost an exact translation, so you will have weird pauses. So do you know how long they've been doing that change?
I'm not actually sure like when that changed, but I do think shows like there are certain shows where you had a good localized dub, like Cowboy Bebop, that kind of showed people like you do want it to be adjusted. Like Cowboy Bebop is so good that the Japanese, I've heard that the Japanese will watch the English dub of Cowboy Bebop. So, you know, people are like, "Oh, dubs suck." It's like, no, some of them do, like whatever. But like, if you try to keep it too pure, it's gonna suck either way. Because it's not going to sound natural. So it's going to be have that Speed Racer effect where they're like, "Aha, I'm doing this thing and I'm victorious, aha!" You know, like they're just like, it's not going to match the mouth. It's going to just be like, "This is not how people speak," you know. And so another fun fact that's going to ruin your day. Even subtitles are not always accurate because subtitles, they can only have a certain number of characters or words on the screen because it has to be. I think like if they have too many, like they have to break it up into different whatever things. So a lot of times they're trying to paraphrase it and just condense it to like what the shortest version of the line is. So the only pure way to enjoy anime if you're like about that life is to like learn Japanese and like listen to it that way. So even with subtitles, you're gonna get some kind of, you know, not spin, but you're gonna get like a condensed version just because they have to abide by, I think it's like an ADA restriction or something where it's like it has to be a certain number of characters. Anyway, somebody have any other questions?
there was one about Danganronpa. You guys can say that more. Yeah. Some places. Yeah.
She's not gonna let you stand. She's opposed to it.
I got steel toe boots on.
She'll just kick you right in the mouth. She looks nice, but she's
She's feral.
yes.
There was a question earlier about if you could choose someone else to voice for Danganronpa, who would you do aside from someone?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like I got the fun characters.
I have facts. I mean, any of the games, maybe not the first one that you were in, but like any of the Danganronpas.
I'm also notoriously bad with names.
Oof, there's so many. There's
So I'm like the one with the thingamadoos, and they're like, "That's not."
I think that's.
Oh, maybe Celeste. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I got the ones that I. Yeah, because I wouldn't be funny voicing Sakura, because it's like Sakura needs to have a very specific voice, but Sakura is like my other favorite character. Probably this character. I don't know her name, but I see her all the time. Ibuki? There you go, I'm a poser now. I'm like, I don't know the character's name. I also haven't played the games. I watch them on YouTube, well, like playthroughs, because I have a Sega Genesis and an Xbox 360. I have not updated my gear. Somehow I'm like this weird millennial who's like, I hate technology.
Me too. I just don't understand it. It's so hard.
Like I had an iPhone 8 and it just got stolen this past week, and my friend's like, "Good, they did you a favor." That was Tom. Yeah, so I got an iPhone 12, and I've been like, "Look at my face." It's it's like trying, like it's like not doing the Face ID, and I'm just like, "It's my face. It's me."
I thought, just do the code again. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, I missed I had the thumbprint. That to me is like technology, man.
Question from the side was essentially, how did you get into voice acting? Like, what? First of all, why were you interested?
Mm-hmm. I like taking opportunities from other people. It's like a blood sport situation. And I got into it by, it's like Game of Thrones. You have to dethrone the current person, so a lot of blood is on my hands. It's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it. That's more interesting than how I actually got in. To be like, I fought every voice actor above me to the death until I got the parts.
Had to kill the boss.
Like it's a very Duncan Bronco kind of situation. It's like there can only be one. Back to Highlander, which is that joke I made earlier. So anyway, I was a theater major. I was a nerdy theater kid in high school, so I already loved acting. I had the foundation there, and then I was originally like, I'm gonna go to New York and be on Broadway. But then, why'd you gotta laugh so hard?
Because it's hard. That's difficult. I mean, like, oh, never mind. Not for a fantasy.
Not for a theater major.
I'm a theater major.
Well, not for a good theater major.
Oh, she's dead. Run your own Q&A.
Yeah. I unalived her.
Everyone get it.
So Tony Oliver's this voice actor. He was in Robotech. Like he's one of the OG dubbing voice actors, but he does this workshop. He still does it, called Adventures in Voice Acting. I think now they do it virtually, so you can kind of do it from anywhere. But they came to my college town, and they did a workshop in anime and video game like dubbing, and it was really cool because a lot of voiceover classes are for commercial or something boring, but I was getting to like dub scenes from anime, and I was like, this is really cool. At the end of the class, he pulled me aside and was like, "You got a future in this business, kid," which is a very Hollywood story. And be like, "Yeah, you got a future, see?"
Did you have a cigar?
Yeah, he was like, "Yeah, see." And then the other students in the class didn't like that because he said it loud enough for them to hear. And I'm like, "Ooh."
The rest of you suck.
Yeah, the rest of you go home. You'll never make it.
On the mic, because it's a voiceover. Like, you there, you've got a future.
You got a future, kid. So then they came back like a couple months later and did the intermediate class. I'm like, okay, yeah, this solidified it. So I'm like, forget New York. I'm gonna go to LA because LA is kind of where they do. LA's kind of where they do everything. I mean, there's Dallas, but like LA is also where they do on camera. Like I wanted to do all of it. I wanted to do TV, film, voiceover. I ended up only getting into voiceover because it is hard. It's competitive out there if you're not like a Scarlett Johansson looking person. So and I like food, so LA is not the scene for me. So I moved to LA. I did an internship with a guy that I met in that first class because he ended up getting a job there. So I was like, "Hey, Victor, remember me from that class where Tony said,
right?
where all of you hated me because Tony said something nice about me in front of the class? Yeah, well, can you help me get an internship where you work?" He's like, "Okay." So I got an internship at Bang Zoom. They do video games, anime, and all that stuff. So I was getting them coffee, but like they knew I was an actor, and they like let me do background stuff, which in anime is called walla. So it's basically like extra work for voiceover. So you're like all the crowds. So sometimes you're in a room with like 4 or 5 other people, and you're all just improvising off of each other, and then they'll layer it and make it sound like it's a big old crowd of people, and like they'll turn it down, so you're not really hearing what we say, but it just sounds like chatter. Or sometimes you're in the booth by yourself and just making stuff up, which is really funny because you're like, I'm in a padded room talking to myself. This is where my parents always said I would be. Because you're just like filling in gaps. So you're just like, oh my gosh, that test today was so hard, right? Yeah, I know. Totally. Like you're just making stuff up. You're like just a one-sided conversation. So that's walla. And I believe that it was called that because in the past, I think the people would just make it sound like people were talking by going walla 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 walla, and then they'd layer it and it sounded like chatter, which they still do they do it for Boruto now. It's weird. I hate it.
I've definitely heard it, and I'm like, there's something
wrong.
Older anime where they do that, like you can hear them a little too clearly.
That's
Like, gosh, I've got to get to park, and it's like, oh, what is that?
Well, see, so there's a problem, because like, it's with Boruto, they've been trying something new, and I keep saying, stop it. But they don't like it when you can hear people too clearly. So now they have people just go, like Simlish or whatever. But the problem is, I'm like, you can hear that too clearly too. So now it just sounds like everybody's like, I don't know.
From here.
Yeah, it's like they're speaking a different language. I don't know. Like, so anyway, so I did Walla, and then they were like, oh, she doesn't suck too bad. So then they give me like little like one-line parts here and there, like the waitress or like young mom. And then eventually they started letting me like audition for actual stuff, and then I started booking here and there, and then the directors that I booked with worked at other studios too, so that they'd bring me to other studios on other projects, and kind of just, you know, over the course of like 10 years, kind of spanned out from there. Got an agent, and getting an agent's kind of where you're going to get access to like the bigger gigs, the original animation stuff for Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, video games, all that stuff. So.
We have a song over there.
Oh yeah.
Someone here.
The stander.
I have to think about it. Yes.
The stand, man.
Thank you for sitting. Oh shoot, I forgot what it was. It was
Good job.
Is there any anime that you is there any anime in Japanese that you've seen that doesn't have a dub yet that you would love to work on?
No, that would mean I'd be cool and I actually like watched Japanese before it got to the US. I'm a poser. I'm always watching things late. Like I just finished watching Yuri on Ice. So like it's one of those things where I'm always like, even with my technology, I'm a couple years behind. So with anime, I'm like, what are the kids into? My Heroes Academics? Okay, I'll go check this out. So I've got a bunch of stuff on a list. Everybody's saying I should watch Jujutsu Kaisen or something like that. And somebody else was saying Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer.
Yumetsu no Kaiba? Yeah.
Huh?
Japanese.
So yeah, no, I wish I was cool enough to be like, oh yeah, like I totally, all this anime you don't know of yet. Like the hipster. It's like, you would know, but it's not here yet.
It doesn't have a dub.
I used to be like that. I'm like that for foreign TV shows and foreign movies though. I'm like, oh yes, it's this French film. No, it hasn't come here yet. But it got a standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival. So I'm insufferable in my own ways.
I'm not gonna.
You're not gonna, she's like, I wasn't gonna say it. You said it first.
Yeah, you said it. Say something nice.
No, I will just shoot it down. I'll be like, no, I'm the worst.
Your makeup is fierce.
Thanks. If you weren't here earlier, my handler does like really cool makeup, and I was like, make me look like a Sailor Moon villain.
It worked.
So.
It worked. They did it. The question was, what is the hardest thing for you to emote with your voice? Like you have to really, like how do you really reach deep? What's one that you have to like really kind of challenge yourself with?
I feel like it's probably like sadness or concern, because it's very easy to make it sound fake. You know, like when people are like, give us an example. Well, like, you know, I know, like, because that's something where you really need to, like, I mean, it's hard to authentically feel stuff sometimes when it's like, you're like, this is a fake situation, but like, and also like, it's hard to get into the moment because in anime you're moving so quickly, so you don't really have time to like settle in like you would in theater or whatever. But I don't know, I feel like it's easy to sound, okay, how many of you seen like have you seen Sailor Moon Eternal, the Sailor Moon movies on Netflix? You know how there's like a zillion times where we say, princess, prince, and it just sounds so freaking fake to me. Like it's just like, oh my goodness, princess, prince, and so it's like stuff like that, like it just sounds kind of like worry and sadness, I guess, or just sadness where you're like, well, no, actually, I don't know. Now I'm just like rambling because I feel like it's easy to do sadness when it's like introspective sadness, where you're like, it was my fault that this happened to him. You know, like that's fine. But if it's like, I don't